So it's actually me next. So I'm talking, as I said a moment ago, about inclusion, and I've just got 5 tips really that you can use in terms of how technology can support inclusion in the hybrid classroom. So this is a slide that Microsoft use in their training materials around this topic, just focusing on the sheer number of people who have different kinds of disabilities in different forms, some of which are very visible, some of which are not so visible, and that's how they categorize them when they are presenting on some of the tools that Microsoft enable for inclusion. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some of those tools. So the first one, which Elaine mentioned in her presentation, is Immersive Reader. Now, really what I'm expecting from this is, rather than it being a teacher-led thing, it's really about a student-led thing. It's about students recognizing that there's a tool here that can help them, that can support them with reading. So it does a number of things. It allows them to have text read aloud to them, and it will highlight each word as it does that. They can select how the content is displayed, so they'll be able to change background colors. So for instance, if they find it easier to read on a sort of yellow background, they can change that background. They can increase the spacing. They can add syllables into words, things like that. Translation for EAL students and others is also possible. There's a built-in dictionary that gives support in terms of the words, the vocabulary that's being used in whatever's being read. And actually there's a picture dictionary as well that allows them to click on a word and see an image of that, so hopefully help with deciphering what that word means. And it's in so many different places, which we'll come to in a moment. So many different products have got Immersive Reader in it, and I think it's a really useful thing. Edge as well has a version of this, and I've got some very short videos just demoing how these work. So first of all, what we've got here is Teams. So inside Teams assignment, you can see here that an assignment has been set, and I can actually click on the button in the top right-hand corner as a student to get it to read to me the assignment. So if I click play on this video down here, you'll see that what it's going to do in a moment. I can click on the little sound.
Practice.
And it will tell me that.
Document 2.
And I've got the French translation, and you could see the picture dictionary was there as well.
Practice papers. Due the 12th of March 2021, 23:59. Instructions. Please complete the attached task during lesson time. The set 1 and 2 must complete both papers, and set 3 must do the maths intervention paper. Thanks.
So it's not the most inspiring message necessarily, but that's a real message from an assignment that was locked down. And you can see as well that it's got things there like the nouns are highlighted, the adjectives are highlighted. It's got the little symbol just above the N for noun. They're color coded. It's got lots of useful tools as part of it that can help students, support students reading. You can also see this in the actual resources. So on that assignment, there was a Word document, and it was this Word document, GCSE Maths Practice Paper. And when they open that document, there's another icon for Immersive Reader. And again, that will allow them to read out, for instance, the questions that are inside this paper. So again, quickly have a look at that.
Express. Fraction.
And then in terms of conversations in Teams, so when you're going onto the Posts tab and you're posting messages, or indeed this also works in chat messages and elsewhere in Teams where there are messages, again, you can use the Immersive Reader. So you hover over the 3 dots, go to Immersive Reader, and it will take you into the Immersive Reader view for this particular post. See it open there, there we go. You can change your preferences, so this is all the preferences around font and theme and so on, whether you want the nouns, verbs, adjectives, etc., picture dictionary, line focus, translation, all those options you can choose for the post, and again you can get it to play that to you. This is the version in Edge, so I'm in Edge, and I'm looking at a Wikipedia page about binary code, and again if I play this video you'll be able to see how we use Immersive Reader. So there's a little icon at the top. You can also press F9, takes you into the Immersive Reader view. You can change the preferences in the same way as we just saw in Teams, and yeah, you can get it to read aloud to you, all the same things that you can do. One of the things that's interesting in this one is there's a picture on this Wikipedia page that you can see that's kind of an animation, and just to see what happens when it reads the screen. Looks like we're translating into a different language. And then in a moment, we're going to click read aloud. There we go. Obviously, Edge is slightly slow.
Binary code. For the binary form of computer software, see machine code. The word Wikipedia represented in ASCII binary code, made up of 9 bytes, 72 bits.
And that actually wasn't written on the page. That was the picture. It does use the captions from the picture, which we'll look at in a moment as well. It's also in Microsoft Forms. So when you've got a question in Microsoft Forms, there's a little Immersive Reader button next to that question. And again, it opens the Immersive Reader view and the student can have the question.
Binary is a base 2 number system. How many possible values are there for each digit? 1.1, 2, 10, 16, 8. End of question. Close the reader to input your answer.
Okay, so it reads the question to them, tells them what they need to do. So they close the reader, they put their answer in, and then they move on to the next question. So it's a really, really useful tool that students can use to help with their reading. This is a graphic that shows where it's currently available and the different elements of learning tools, Immersive Reader, that are available in different products. The OneNote, you can see lots of ticks in there. It's very, very developed, well established in OneNote. Word, it's less good in the downloaded desktop version. It's much, much better in Word Online. You've got Outlook Online as well, which is very, very good. And then various other places where you can use Immersive Reader. And there are various third parties. This isn't all of them, but there are various third parties who have integrated with Microsoft and this product as well, so that all of the content that is on those platforms can be read out using Immersive Reader. And I'm going to run through the other ones fairly quickly. So captions is another option that you could use. You could use that in PowerPoint. For instance, I could have subtitles showing at the bottom of the screen. You can also use Translator. So if students in your class, for instance, had Translator open on a device or a phone, then it could be translating what's being said in the classroom live for them. This is a quick demo of it being used in action. Here you can see that I've turned on captions in my PowerPoint. You can see the captions are appearing below the slide. Okay, and you can see that on the slideshow menu, that's where you do it. You say always use subtitles. There's some subtitle settings that you can choose, what language you're speaking, what language you want to show in the subtitles. And you can also do that for live translation. So in this version, it's going to show it in a different language. Okay, so here you can see that in this version, the captions are actually translating what I am saying into a different language, in this case, French. Now, I've got no idea if that's the correct translation, but that is how it works. Students can also do this in Teams meetings. So if I know we're out of remote education for a little while, but where you still have Teams meetings, you can actually have them, translate, and each individual. So here I'm in a Teams meeting, and I'm going to turn on captions. I can do that by going to the three dots and go to turn on live captions. Once the live captions has been turned on, I'll start seeing subtitles across the bottom. You can see them appearing there. This will appear for me or any other audience member who's speaking. So I will get to see what anyone is saying typed out on the screen. No one else will be able to see these unless they also turn on captions. Okay, next one I wanted to mention was dictation. Microsoft's technology around dictation is getting really, really good, and you could, have a situation where students with mobility issues, for instance, dictate into a Word document whatever it is that they want to do. You could also use that feature actually to feed back onto students' work. Very straightforward, and here are a couple of examples of doing that. So dictating the answers in terms of that paper we saw earlier. So I'm actually dictating fractions into this paper. I'm not sure I actually recorded the sound on that, but I actually did say a fifth, and a fifth appeared as the response. And I won't show you this one, but you can also see that there's a video there where I can type in words as well. The fourth tip is to do with editor, and this is really to do with a different type of inclusion or inclusiveness, as Microsoft call it, and it's about making sure that any documents that you create, emails that you send, etc., don't have any bias. So age bias, cultural bias, gender bias, etc. It will check whatever you write for these things. It's actually using a form of artificial intelligence to check what you write, and it's sort of spelling and grammar check version 2. It really goes to town on that front. It's actually in the same location as spelling and grammar check in Word. But you can get it to do all of these kind of things, and it's really useful. Last one is Accessibility Checker, which you can use to check the documents that you're creating are accessible for others. So particularly anyone who's using a screen reader like Immersive Reader, have you ensured that you've added alt text, which basically means that the screen reader will read what that graphic is. So it will say a picture of whatever. The screen reader will actually read that out. It will do things like ask you to consider contrast, so for color blindness, and so on. So when you're creating a document, whether it be a presentation, whether it be a worksheet, you can run the accessibility checker and it will give you tips on how to improve that document and make sure it's accessible for all. The main message that I wanted to give really was that the technology provides loads of game-changing tools for accessibility and inclusion that we're probably not making the best use of yet. So please do explore them. Check who your audience is. So obviously, check the SAM register, perhaps do surveys about how students prefer to receive the work that you provide to them. As you're going along, amend your pre-made materials. So don't try and sort of reinvent the wheel. Take existing Word documents, existing PowerPoints, and adjust them to include some of these concepts. Build new content with access to all in mind, and consider the different products that you use and whether they include these tools that enable everyone to access those tools.